Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your news edition. These are the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, Chairman of the Supreme Judicial Council and First Magistrate of the country, chairs the opening of the 2025-2026 judicial year. The President of the Republic sends a condolence message to the Emir of Qatar following the death of three diplomats in a traffic accident in Sharm el-Sheikh. In its October edition, Al Jaish magazine pays tribute to the units of the People's National Army and their efforts to protect the country and reinforce the sovereignty as well as the national independence. Welcome back. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, Chairman of the Supreme Judicial Council and First Magistrate of the country, chaired on Sunday the opening of the 2025-2026 judicial year. Upon his arrival at the headquarters of the Supreme Court, he was welcomed by the Minister of Justice and Seals Keeper Lotfi Boujam'a, the first President of the Supreme Court and Vice President of the Supreme Judicial Council, Tahar Mamouni, the Public Prosecutor at the Supreme Court, the President of the Council of State, the State Commissioner, the President of Conflict Court, and the State Commissioner at the Conflict Court. The President of the Republic hailed the high executives of the government who welcomed him, the President of the Council of the Nation, the President of the People's National Assembly, the Prime Minister, the Army General, Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense, Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, the Director of the Cabinet at the Presidency of the Republic, the State Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the National Community Abroad and African Affairs, the State Minister, Minister of Hydrocarbons and Mines, the State Minister in charge of Inspection of State Services and local authorities, the State Secretary at the Presidency of the Republic, the Minister of Finance, and the Special Secretary of the President of the Republic. Then the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, Chairman of the Supreme Judicial Council and First Magistrate of the country, chaired the opening of the 2025-2026 judicial year. The ceremony was held with the presence of high executives and members of the government, magistrates at the Supreme Court and the Council of State, as well as members of the Supreme Judicial Council and executives of the sector of justice. A yearly tradition that reflects the rule of law and the independence of the judiciary. It also reflects the objectives set to reinforce the judicial system in order to ensure a true and balanced justice. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, Chairman of the Supreme Judicial Council and First Magistrate of the country, affirmed that in the context of the supported efforts aiming at building a free and balanced economy, it became necessary to recognize the relation between the freedom to undertake and the control of public funds. The head of state insisted on the fact that the current situation requires a new vision able to value investment and economic justice by distinguishing between the commercial and the legal domains.
نقطة لازم نحاول بقدر الاستطاعة باش نتجاوزها في إطار إنشاء اقتصاد حر، اقتصاد مدر للثروة ولمناصب الشغل لأبنائنا المتخرجين وغيرهم. إذن الشيء اللي نأسف عليه هو أن القطاع الاقتصادي حر بنسبة 85% فما أكثر ربما، ولكن التمويل عمومي، وهذا اللي يخلي القاضي ومصالح الأمن دائما تتدخل في كل عملية ولو في قطاع حر، ولكن ما دام المال مال الدولة لازم الرقابة نتاعو. إذا لازم نصيب صيغ اللي تخلي الأمور التجارية تبقى تجارية، والجنح والجنايات تبقى جنح وجنايات. صعب يعني تحديد أمور بينهما، ولكن لازم نسعى إلى اجتهاد، لازم نكثف هذه المحاكم هذه.
The President of the Republic highlighted that the real challenge is the speed of application of legal procedures and their execution. For the success of this process, he insisted on the necessity to reinforce the capacities of the security forces and generalize electronic payment methods to facilitate the recovery of fines.
الحمد لله ربي يصون هذه البلاد وولادها وبناتها. رانا في مثل ما قلت قرابة 50 مليون نسمة، يعني بعض القوانين تاعنا خديناها من كنا 16 مليون 17 مليون. أمور اليوم لو ما نسرعش في القضاء تتراكم علينا الأمور وتعطي نظرة أخرى على الدولة الجزائرية وعلى القضاة وحاشاهم أبعادهم على هذه التصرفات. إذن نحاول كيفاش ناخذ قرارات تاع الدفع مباشر في خطأ في قانون المرور ولا في كذا ولا فدا يدفع فورا. وباش يدفع فورا لازم رجال الدرك والشرطة يكون عندهم وسائل الدفع الإلكتروني.
The President of the Republic announced that the statute of the judiciary will be promulgated before the end of the current year, before announcing the official start of the 2025-2026 judicial year and wishing success to the whole magistrate and the actors of the justice sector.
أعيدكم في النهاية أني سأفرج عن القانون الأساسي للقضاة قبل نهاية السنة، وأعلن رسميا عن افتتاح السنة القضائية 2025-2026. وفقكم الله ووفقنا وإياكم.
On this occasion, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, took a memorial photo with the Minister of Justice and Seals Keeper, the President of the Supreme Court and advisors at the Supreme Court and the Council of State. The Minister of Justice and Seals Keeper reaffirmed the firm resolution to continue the reform process and reinforce the integrity of the judicial system, considered as an essential part of the edification of the rule of law.
Allow me, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, to salute the efforts made by all of the judicial bodies as well as the positive results of each in their respective fields. These results show the level of dedication and constant hard work that is translated in reality. I would like to renew my thanks for your unwavering support to the sector of justice with precious contribution that allows us to continue with the reforms and modernization. We assure you that we will meet your expectations with the same level of determination and enthusiasm. We will serve justice with integrity, equity and professional deontology, knowing that the country is witnessing many positive transformations. We need to create an environment that promotes investment and the economy as a whole while preserving the national security and integrity.
For his part, the first President of the Supreme Court, Tahar Bamoni, affirmed that the presence of the President of the Republic among the justice family reflects his commitment to supporting this vital sector as part of the rule of law edification process. He also affirmed that this presence reinforces the credibility of the judicial system and consolidates his role as the guarantor of justice and probity within society.
The President of the Republic, President of the High Council of the Judiciary, stands at the head of the highest institution in the country. His presence among us today reflects his loyalty, his commitment, the personal interest and constitutional attention he devotes to the justice sector in fulfillment of the commitments he made to the Algerian people. These commitments are aligned with the set objectives and represent a moral drive aimed at strengthening the credibility of the judicial institution within society, making it the constitutional framework that guarantees freedoms, equality and legal security in order to build a state governed by the rule of law as desired by every Algerian citizen.
The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, sent a condolence message on Sunday to His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Emir of the Brotherly State of Qatar, following the death of 3 diplomats, and I quote, "Your Highness and dear brother, It is with deep sorrow and grief that I learned the death of 3 diplomat members of the Amiri Diwan and the injury of others in a tragic traffic accident that occurred in Sharm el-Sheikh in the Arab Republic of Egypt. In this painful circumstance, I extend my heartfelt condolences to Your Highness. I pray Allah Almighty to bestow His mercy upon the departed and welcome them into His vast paradise. May Allah comfort you and the bereaved families and grant swift recovery to the wounded. To Allah we belong and to Him we shall return. The Prime Minister Siferiyeb had a phone talk with the President of the Council of Ministers of the Arab Republic of Egypt, Mustafa Madbouli. They discussed the results of the October 8th phone call between the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, and his brother, the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. This call was the occasion to review the historical and cooperation relations between the two countries. The Egyptian minister highlighted the strong relations between Algeria and Egypt. He also insisted on the importance of a joint work to develop the bilateral cooperations in all the sectors. For his part, Siferiyeb congratulated his Egyptian counterpart for the celebration of the October 6th victory, reaffirming the importance of reinforcing the bilateral cooperation, especially for the preparation of the 9th session of the Higher Joint Algerian-Egyptian Commission that will be an important step to consolidate the economic partnership and open new prospects for cooperation in various sectors. After years of reforms, the national policy regarding the justice sector is ready for implementation with the respect of human rights and the application of the digitization transition. More details with Manal Boubagra.
Heading toward a transformative era for justice, Algeria thrives to ensure efficiency within the strategic sector. A national policy is set in place based on the respect of human rights and the digitization transition. With the national priorities already set, facing organized crime locally and across borders, equality before the law with the respect of individual liberties is of the essence.
In order to follow the directives of the criminal policy, I urge you to honor the efforts made in order to put an end to all criminal activities, including organized crime, handling major affairs with great care and efficiency, following the legal procedures and respecting human rights in accordance to the governmental plan inspired by the presidential program.
These instructions display the call of a stronger, more adequate, transparent and accessible judicial policy that now uses modernized tools.
I highlight the utilization of all IT systems for app developed for legal purposes, promoting online services and online litigation, as these are the strategic objectives of the sector, including all actors within the legal framework.
Thanks to digitization, many procedures are now done online, reinforcing the integration of the justice system, making it more accessible to the citizens, an evolution much needed to revitalize this critical sector.
In its latest edition, Al-Jaish magazine paid tribute to the tireless unit of the People's National Army with an editorial entitled "The PNA Fully Ready to Meet Any Challenge." It looks back at the constant efforts and noble missions accomplished by the PNA to protect the homeland, strengthen sovereignty and defend the national independence. More details with Daniel Bahri.
With a keen sense of national duty, the National People's Army continues with determination to fulfill its noble missions, protecting the homeland, strengthening sovereignty and defending national independence. This mission is in keeping with the oath of the war veterans and the legacy of November 1st, writes Al-Jaish magazine in its latest editorial entitled "The AMP Fully Prepared to Meet All Challenges." It is in this spirit that the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of National Defense, praised the PNA's continued efforts during his visit to the Ministry of National Defense headquarters on October 9th. The head of state also reiterated that Algeria's borders remain secure and protected thanks to the vigilance of the National People's Army. These remarks illustrate the continued commitment of the military institution, which stands as an impregnable bulwark against any threat. Al-Jaish magazine in its editorial confirmed once again by the recent counter-terrorism operation conducted in the 5th Military Region, which was crowned with success with the neutralization of 7 terrorists and the seizure of several automatic weapons and ammunition. At the site of the operation, the Army General Said Shengriha, Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense and Chief of Staff of the PNA, congratulated the soldiers. The editorial recalls for their professionalism and courage, a powerful gesture symbolizing the High Command's recognition of the PNA elements faithful to the oath of martyrdom. In his speech, the Army General emphasized the country's strategic vision based on an emerging economy, a powerful army, and a strong internal front for a stable, strong, and sovereign Algeria. Today adds the editorial that the PNA is relentlessly pursuing its process of modernization and development, integrating new defense technologies and training a generation of highly qualified officers. It strives to remain in step with the geopolitical and security transformations of the world while adapting its capabilities to the nature of new threats. This development is part of the National Renaissance Project, driven by New Algeria, a project based on cohesion, solidarity, and unity of the people. In a regional and international context marked by tensions, Algeria is moving forward with confidence, strengthened by the cohesion between its people, its institutions, and its army. A cohesion, the editorial adds, which has repeatedly thwarted plots and foiled hostile maneuvers aimed at destabilizing the country. For the National People's Army, a worthy heir to the National Liberation Army, remains faithful to its oath to defend the people, preserve territorial security, and guard national sovereignty. Proudly united and resolute, Algeria continues its march forward, guided by the conscience of its people and the loyalty of its army, guardian of the present and guarantor of the future, concludes El Jaish magazine in its editorial.
The port of Algiers is witnessing Algerian-American military cooperation with the arrival of the USS Roosevelt UDG-80 this Sunday. Until the 16th of October, both parties are to engage in many joint activities. More details with Manal Boubagara.
As part of the bilateral Algerian-American military cooperation program, the American destroyer USS Roosevelt DDG-80 docked today, Sunday, October 12, 2025, at the port of Algiers for a stopover that will last until October 16, 2025. During this stopover, and at the headquarters of the Algiers Naval Base, the head of mission, accompanied by his delegation, paid a courtesy visit to the General Commander of the Central Maritime Front in the 1st Military Region, where the two parties discussed ways to strengthen bilateral cooperation and exchange expertise between the Algerian and American navies. In this context, cultural and sporting activities will be organized for the crew of the American ship, as well as reciprocal visits between Algerian Navy officers and the crew of the American destroyer. A joint PASEX maritime exercise will take place using the multi-mission frigate ship Era D2. This exercise aims to strengthen joint work between the naval units of both countries and to exchange experiences in the areas of maneuvers, operational coordination, maritime communications, and maritime security operations.
The Minister of Interior, Local Authorities and Transport, Said Sayoud, takes part in Cape Town in South Africa to the works of the G20 meeting on the disaster risk reduction, a meeting under the theme Resilience for All, reduce the disaster risk with solidarity, equity and sustainability. It is the first participation of Algeria as a guest country. The Sahrawi people celebrated this Sunday the 50th anniversary of the national unity, an occasion to reaffirm its determination to continue its fight for self-determination and independence, as well as the efforts to counter the propaganda of the Makhzen and its allies aiming at imposing to the Sahrawi people the so-called autonomy plan. This anniversary is a major historical step in the journey of the Sahrawi people to liberation and national cohesion. The proclamation of the national unity marks a turning point in the history of the Sahrawi resistance, an event that gathered the Sahrawi people around its own one and only legitimate representative, the Polisario Front, as the people affirmed under its banner on the 12th of October 1975 its determination to continue the fight against the Moroccan occupation while the Spanish colonial power was getting ready to withdraw from Western Sahara. and on the ground, violations of international law and the legitimate rights of the Sahrawi people by the Moroccan occupier continue. The Makhzen organized an economic forum to promote investment in the occupied Sahrawi territories considered by the UN as non-self-governing territory. This approach has been widely denounced. More details with Daniel Bahri.
France's change of position on the Sahrawi issue is clearly driven by its wish to protect its economic interests in Africa's last colony. Because France officially supports Morocco's autonomy plan, French companies are now investing more in the occupied territories of Dakhla, ignoring international law. This French economic presence mainly shows a strategy to keep influence in a region rich in natural resources. These investments help the Moroccan government maintain control over the area. By choosing an economic policy that serves its own interests, France is in particular supporting Morocco's occupation of Western Sahara and violating international law, which supports the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination. In Dakhla, in the south of Western Sahara, the Sahrawi people remain determined despite the presence of French companies. They continue to defend their right to manage their own natural resources freely.
In the occupied Palestinian territories, the people of Gaza returned to their neighborhoods after the start of the ceasefire. Even though they're full of hope, the destructions left such a huge damage that it is impossible to settle there. Everything has been destroyed. Gaza became a ghost town, but the people are determined to rebuild it stone by stone and repopulate their land. And after defeating Somalia 3-0 in Oran last Thursday and ensuring its qualification to the 2026 World Cup, the football national team started its preparation for the game against Uganda on Monday at 5 p.m. at the Hussein Ahmed Stadium in Tizi Ouzou. It's the 10th and last fixture of the qualifications to the World Cup in USA, Canada and Mexico. And with this, we come to the end of our edition. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. Have a good night.